All right, welcome in everybody. If you haven't heard by now, I'm Kyle and this is Matt. We're going to be doing our top 20 tight end video, and we're living the fantasy. Let's get into it. So we all have Travis Kelce number one for obvious reasons. Want to get into those?
I don't know, 80th percentile in every single statistic. He's an absolute unit, best quarterback in the league, biggest target percentage, biggest contested catch rate. That's pretty much it. I mean, the dude's huge. He does good things. He's consistent, doesn't get injured.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's on one of the best offenses in football. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best young quarterbacks. We talked about it before, and you've probably heard it from other places. Patrick Mahomes will regress because 50 touchdowns, that's not happening again. So does that...
I disagree.
Well, does that affect Travis Kelce at all? I mean, Travis Kelce got 1,300 yards last season and 10 touchdowns. So 10 touchdowns out of the 50, that's like not even that big of a portion.
The only thing in my head that I don't know. The only reason I think he might regress is because I don't think Damian Williams is as good as Kareem Hunt, and there's gonna be a lot more pressure on the receivers because they're not gonna have to worry about the run game as much. A lot of people obviously say Damian Williams is an absolute beast and that he's going to be doing great things, and that's probably true. But I mean, that's the only fear in my head is that all they have to focus on is Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. It just depends on your point of view on their offense. I think that they're going to have the same amount of touchdowns, not the same amount of touchdowns as last year. I think they're going to have 40, 250, even though statistics in the past suggest that's not the case. I mean, even if he goes down to 30 touchdowns in the season, who the hell is going to get him? Like it's going to be Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. That's pretty much it. And then maybe Mecole Hardman gets it, like scrapes by and gets like 4 or 5. But like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill are the only piece of the offense that really matters. So
I'm just saying that like if Mahomes regresses like he should, like based off of history,
mathematically,
then maybe Travis Kelce has like 1 or 2 less touchdowns. I don't think that's going to be the case. Like if he throws for 40 touchdowns. Kelce gets 10 of them again. Like that's easy. Like he can easily get 10 of them again.
And I think he's gonna have more than that, to be completely honest.
He could have more than that too. So So Travis Kelce, bottom line is he's safe. He's a beast. He's number one.
He's locked in number one.
You have him in tier 1 all alone. I didn't do that, but he's essentially kind of the way I draft. He is basically tier 1 by himself.
You don't get a second round ADP without being the complete best player. Well, I mean, at tight end without being the complete best player at your position. Like it's not possible. So Travis Kelce, everybody knows it.
Yeah, he's been on the rise for years, and now he's actually putting up straight up like Gronk-like seasons. So it is what it is. Next up, well, I have Ertz next, and then Fantasy Pros and Matt both have Kittle. I just like Ertz because, for one, I'm an Eagles fan. For two, I think he's consistent. He always gets a lot of targets and catches. He was targeted a lot throughout the red zone area. Ertz he's a beast, man. He gets it done. Last year, he had the most receptions in the league. So in PPR, he's going to be for sure the best. I would say basically if I'm choosing between Kittle and Ertz, Ertz is PPR and Kittle is standard for me. And then half point, that's where it's like, which one do I take? I lean Ertz just because we've seen it multiple years. Kittle, we've only really seen it 1 year. And he's going to have Garoppolo back this year. So like, how does that affect him? Is that going to be...
I mean, I think it's a positive.
You would assume it'd be positive. You would assume so. But early on, when Garoppolo did play, he actually got targeted less. And I mean... Part of that is because
small sample size though.
Yeah, it's a small sample size. Part of it is because lack of chemistry probably. Part of it is I'm sure Kittle got better over the season as it progressed. So you can't really take too much out of it, but you never know.
I don't take much out of that. I think that having a more accurate quarterback is going to benefit him. I think, like I said with like other players for the Niners, is that the game speed is a little bit slower paced, and so he might get less opportunities to make catches. So like the way I compare Kittle and Ertz is Ertz plays smart, whereas Kittle has just like the insane body to do insane things. You know what I'm saying? So like Kittle's so fast and so like he's 95th percentile to 100th percentile in literally every workout metric, and he just like takes advantage of everything. He has the second highest target rate of tight ends, number 1 in yards after catch, and if he keeps these statistics up, I think that he has a great year this year. Whereas Ertz, he's gonna have a great year also, but he doesn't separate, I don't think, as well as Kittle, and then he uses his body more on contested catches. So he's always like backing people up like he's like a center or like playing basketball or something. So I like them both for different reasons. I think they're both gonna do great. Fantasy Pros has Kittle above Ertz, and I have Kittle above Ertz. But based on ADP, Ertz is actually going above Kittle in most leagues. So I don't fault anybody for doing that. But you can't really go wrong with either of them in the third round or whatever, fourth round.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with either of them, like you said. Ertz is more of a fundamental guy. He's really clean with his route running and all those kind of like techniques. He's a mechanic. The one thing about Ertz and Kittle is that they could both regress. So Ertz had the most receptions last year. To do that back to back, like break his own record, that's pretty unlikely in itself. And then Kittle broke a record for yards. So, like both of them broke records. So like they could regress in those categories. But then again, Kittle only got like 5 touchdowns last season, so he could get more touchdowns. So Kittle could still even do better just because he gets more touchdowns. And Zach Ertz is on a high-powered offense. I don't know, man.
I don't know. My only fear with Ertz is that at the end of last season, he was really struggling getting points up on the board, and I mean part of that was he had a different quarterback, and he really connects with Wentz well. But also, I think that they were trying to incorporate Dallas Goedert a lot more into the lineup. And so it was taking away from his target share, even though, he deserves a pretty large target share as well.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas Goedert, he's going to be an absolute unit. He's
yeah, I agree. His game tape was insane. I wanted to grab him, but
he's a really good tight end. So of course he's going to get his touchdowns. I mean, he should have at least 4 next year, if not 5. Or he's going to take away a couple touchdowns, but he's also going to help extend some drives too, I think. So it's a positive and a negative. Dallas Goedert, you could look for him farther down in the draft if you're doing like a best ball. That's pretty much all he's good for. I
think honestly they should always have 2 tight ends on the field. I think both
they
of them
do a lot
should
of
be playing every time.
Yeah, a lot of the time we do.
Yeah, I think there's no other way to do it from a coaching standpoint. When you have 2 guys that are absolutely elite, then like there's no reason not to have them on the field.
Yeah, and another thing I'll say about Ertz and Kittle is like they were so good like last year in fantasy because of the value where you got them from. Ertz went in the 4th round generally. He could slide in some leagues. Like I got him pretty late in my league. It was like the 6th round in a 10-man league, which was really late. So that was a steal. And then Kittle was like way later on. So it like based on the values last year, they were crazy good. This year though, they're going really high. So my strategies have been like not really drafting them as much because around that spot there's some really key players that you can still get. And I like players like O.J. Howard and Engram. So I think like getting one of those like 4th round guys and hoping that they can be top 3 is better than drafting a top 3 tight end, I feel like, at this point, unless you're getting Kittle or Kelce. And if Kelce slides to the right spot, then grabbing him is fine. Like I've done that a couple times too. So it really just depends on what falls. But for the most part, I feel like kind of staying away from Ertz and Kittle is my move.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I really grab them is if I go 0 RB and like grab some wide receivers early, and then I'm like, okay, I need to get the top tier of every position. So like I try to get a top tier of every position except for running back because I know I'm not gonna like have a steal at running back. Like so, I don't know. I always try to I go 2 wide receivers and then I'll grab Kittle or Ertz, and then I'll grab a quarterback in like the 4th or 5th round. And so I could suicide bomb my running back position, but hope that like some of those late round picks work out, and then I grab like Kittle or Ertz as like a for sure thing because I think both of them are for sure things.
Yeah, and I would say like where I would draft them if they fell is pretty much anywhere after T.Y. Hilton. Between Keenan Allen and Ertz is kind of a toss up at that point. Generally, Kittle's going to be gone by then, so I would kind of stay away from Kittle just because he's going a little higher. But either one of them that falls at this spot, I would take. It's like right after T.Y., maybe after Mac's gone, after Dalvin Cook's gone, those kind of players. When it's kind of just left with like the next level of players, I would take him above Amari Cooper. I would take him above, those kind of guys. So that's where I would kind of start drafting them. But generally, they're going to be drafted before then. So that's the only exception for me.
And it's up to each person. Like I don't know the actual rates of like winning percentages with these players. Obviously, last year they were higher just because, like you said, you could get them for a steal. But it's like I think that you can't go wrong with the players, even if like you are getting them at the end of the 3rd round.
Yeah, you definitely can't go wrong. I just think that like I'm trying to find that one guy.
Yeah, try to find value when you can.
Really cool. So then next up we got O.J. Howard. Pretty much, he's always pretty much number 3. He's always number 4. I don't know if anybody would ever disagree with that.
The one issue like I have with him is that he's got like some injury concerns, but the main thing is that like this entire tier has injury concerns. That's the sad part. Like Evan Engram, Hunter Henry, I mean, well that part of the tier anyway. So and those are the guys that I think I kind of like the most as those 3, or before we started making this video was those 3. So I don't know, the injury concern plus he only had 4.8 targets per game, which is kind of kind of lacks for, beast tight end. But the games where he did play, he was putting up decent statistics. I liked him when I had him, but when he was injured, obviously my lineup suffered.
Yeah, well, he only played, like you said, he was injured, so he only played in 10 games. His points per game was 12, which was higher than a lot of players on here. So
yeah,
he
made the most of his targets.
There's only a few that really went above him per game. So I think he's gonna be consistent because he's an athletic monster. He should be targeted in the middle. If he stays healthy, he could definitely be top 3 tight end this year. I mean, nothing that, like, I'm not taking away I'm not going to take anything away from the top 3 guys. They're all really good, but you never know. O.J. Howard could have that leap where he gets in there somehow, but
I've got him at my 4 right now, but like there's a chance of him falling anywhere from 1 to 12, which is like looking at the list of these guys, like it's possible that he just doesn't get enough points per game, and all those guys below him pass him up, like top 12 guys. So I think that he's the safest option, and that's why he's number 4. There's a lot of really good tight ends this year, I feel like. And then some might disagree.
Yeah, and then Evan Engram, he's a guy I really like going into this year. Evan Engram, he's going for a really good value right now. I think you can get him in 5, 6, or 7 round. Like, it depends on how many people you have. And 10
right now, the average is 6th round in 12-man league.
Yeah, and so in 10, you can get him in like 7, maybe even 8 if he slips far enough, and which is a steal for sure. And Odell's not there, and so when Odell wasn't there in 2017, he got more targets every game. Like, his targets went up for sure. And then in 2018, Odell missed the last 4 games. And then Ingram's yards, he got the 4 best yards totals of the whole year. It was like 75, 77, 71, or 81, and then like 88 or something like that. And he never got higher. He never got into the 70s or higher that whole season. So once Odell went down, he didn't just do it for 1 game. He did it for the next 4 games. So you can see when Odell's not on the field, that's when Evan Engram has his best games. And Odell's not there next year, obviously. So he could definitely be an elite tight end in terms of fantasy.
He's 6th on their list right now, and like I really disagree with that. I think that he should definitely be 5th. I mean, I think it's like a small difference, but having Hunter Henry above him kind of makes me question that.
Yeah.
He's a little like undersized. I mean, undersized, 6'3", 234. That's not really undersized, but like for a tight end, he is. And you've seen some undersized guys like Delanie Walker do great things in their career, so it's hard to fault him for that. And plus, he ran a 4.42, which is one of the I think the fastest tight end in the league. Injury concern kind of freaks me out a little bit, just because he's going to be getting the ball a lot, and if he's getting smacked around, like he might fall out quicker, just because I think he's going to get the ball a lot more than he did last year.
Yeah, he only played like 11 games.
He missed 6 games over the past 2 seasons. So
yeah, so he definitely has to stay, healthy. And because he's a smaller guy, that doesn't help, because he looks like a receiver, to be honest. Like, he just looks like a big receiver.
Yeah, and he's not small by any means, but he's small for a tight end.
Yeah, a lot of these guys on the list are 6'5", 6'6", so
yeah, 6'5", 6'6", 240, 250, whatever. So
yeah, but that's also, he's also like one of the most athletic guys on here because of his size. So
yeah, he makes huge separation. He runs routes like a wide receiver, but he's the size of a tight end.
Yeah. So Evan Engram, he's definitely a target for me. I pretty much, if I don't get one of those top 3 guys or even O.J. Howard, I'm for sure trying to target Engram. I just think he's gonna have a good year next year. The only problem with Engram, other than his injury concern, is Golden Tate. Golden Tate's really good in the slot. He's going to be suspended for the first 4 games, though. So we're going to see how good Engram can be. Definitely should kill it the first 4 games. So then if you have a real concern of Tate coming back and kind of stealing some targets from the slot and kind of playing that guy, that I don't think he's going to have as big of an impact on like taking away targets from Engram as obviously somebody like Odell, but he might, it could do like 2 targets less. I mean, Engram can have 2 targets less per game because of the Tate. You never know.
Well, that's
and if that's a huge concern, if that's a huge concern for you, then trade him after the 3rd week. Because like the first 3 weeks, you should have good weeks, and then if you package him with like another player, and maybe go after somebody like Vance McDonald, assuming that Vance McDonald has a solid start, you can like somewhat downgrade your tight end, but like not even really that much of a downgrade in my opinion, and then try to upgrade at a position with like whoever you're packaging him with. Like you can package him with, Antonio Brown and try to get Tyreek Hill, for example, something like that. Just a small little
definitely
upgrade.
A good call. That's what you did the other day in your draft, and like I think it worked out swimmingly.
Yeah, it was a little different than that, but at the same time, you can always trade these guys. So look for people that can have like really good starts, and you can just trade if that's your worry. If you're not concerned about it, then don't be. I would say if Evan Engram killed it, like just killed it for 4 weeks, then Tate coming back shouldn't affect him too much. Let's say he goes down 2 or 3 points per game in terms of fantasy. So instead of getting 15, he gets like 12. That's still solid enough for me. But if he's getting like 9 to 10, and before Tate comes back, then you might be kind of concerned. Like, well, if that could go down to like 7 or 8, you know. So that's when you might want to start trading him.
I actually have fear about his success while Tate is gone, to be honest, because I don't think that they're going to be able to like do enough on offense to make Evan Engram viable. Like, I think that they might just be able to shut Evan Engram down because they're going to be double covering him. So that kind of worries me a little bit. But like at the same time, you're right with the targets. It's like because without Golden Tate, all they really have is Evan Engram and Saquon. Well, Saquon. I mean, Sterling Shepard's all right, but isn't he going to be out week 1?
He might. I don't know. They're not. It's up in the air right now, I think.
Yeah, they're still talking about it. There are signs that he's not going to be playing week 1, so they don't really have anybody that can step up and take on that role wide receiver.
I would assume he's going to play week 1 because I think he dislocated his thumb. I think he fractured it too. Maybe I don't know.
A fracture, yeah.
I think a lot of the times receivers play through that. I mean, look at Edelman; he's pretty much always played through kind of things like that. So I think he should play through that.
We will see though. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Yeah. I think he might miss 1 week, but I don't think he'll miss any more than that max. So
yeah, I would just draft Engram though as if like you're assuming Shepard's going to be there, which I don't think has an impact on him anyway. So it really doesn't.
Evan Engram. I mean, Evan Engram. He makes a name for himself. He's fast enough and strong enough and whatever that he can take advantage of like any situation he's given. So I'm not super worried about that. He's like Saquon. He's like an elite talent. So
yeah, he's got one of the highest upsides of all the tight ends here. So like
just because skill set.
Yeah.
Is that like the last point where we really really agree or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's like the end of my tier too. Cause I'm just that high on Engram and Howard that I think that that's just like their own tier in general. I'm waiting a couple more rounds later on if I don't get those guys. So, Henry, they have Henry above him.
Yeah, Hunter Henry. I'm not high on Hunter Henry this year. I was, and I just like fell off like 3.5 minutes ago.
My problem with Hunter Henry is the first year we saw him, Gates was still kind of there. So like you can't. It's hard to look at some of these stats and like. Everything and kind of like it's hard to look at it and because it might not have that much impact next year, but I remember a couple years ago when he first came in, Gates was still there and everything, probably a little different of an offense, but he got like 10 points and then 0 and then like 10 points and 0 and like it was really up and down, and I think that could be another thing that happens again. Like that offense, I feel like Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Hunter Henry, it could be 2 out of the 3 perform, and I think most of the time it's going to be Keenan Allen who performs. It's going to be switching off between Mike Williams.
And then they have Eckler too, who takes a ton of targets.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty much just who's going to get that touchdown. Is Henry going to get the touchdown or Mike Williams? Because one of those guys is getting a touchdown every game. I think it's just
for sure.
It's just who doesn't have it. I don't know if the targets are going to be there for Henry to have him be consistent enough. So I think it's just if he gets the touchdown, Henry's going to be good that week. But if he doesn't, he might have a down week in fantasy, and that might hurt. So that's the biggest concern with me is just how consistent is Hunter Henry and how much of his upside, like how much upside does he have?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. They have like a lot of big play guys. So like Mike Williams can get like a 60-yard touchdown like flat. Austin Eckler can get a 60-yard touchdown flat. Melvin Ingram can get or Melvin Gordon can get a you know what I meant. But they all can get like 60-yard touchdowns in one play, and so they don't get a lot of red zone work, which is where Hunter Henry would excel because he's a big man. Plus he's only played 25 of his past 48 games. So like when you put those things together, that doesn't scream top 5 talent, doesn't scream even a 6th-round pick. I don't want to spend that kind of capital on somebody who may not even see the field, or won't get any touchdown work, or is highly volatile in their like point scoring. It's just like it's tough to put that kind of capital into a tight end like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a good word you said, volatile. I think it's not just injury concerns that you can have for him. It's just like performance. That's my concern mainly too. But even then, it's you still have the injuries. So for me, that's why I have my McDonald above him, because I'm just a huge believer in McDonald this year. But we'll get into that after, I think.
I actually am too, to be honest. But we'll talk about that. I think I have him lower on my board than he should be.
You have him lower.
These are such big names that are above him that it's hard for me to just completely adjust my frame of mind right now.
I think where you have him on your board is probably the correct way, and that's kind of like going alongside fantasy pros. And a lot of people are kind of similar to you, I think. Yeah, I just value him high. I'm not saying I would take him high, but you have Cook next.
I have Jared Cook. Do you not have Jared Cook on your list?
That was a fuck up.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, on my computer, it does not show Jared Cook on your list. So Jared Cook, I absolutely love. He's 90th percentile on everything but agility. Obviously that's when he was a rookie. He's been in the league for a little bit, but he was 5th in targets last season with elite speed and size to make big plays. Hasn't missed time in multiple years, and he plays for a team in which he can get a ton of yards and a ton of catches. Um, just the accuracy alone is what makes him worth it. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, with Cook, he's a talented tight end. You know,
he's a steal at his draft position.
And yeah, his draft position, it's a good shot. Like, you're taking a shot, and it's a later on shot. He's a guy who could have like really good upside. You know, he has good upside, and you got Drew Brees as quarterback. So I mean, we've seen what they did before with Jimmy Graham. You never know what you're gonna get with. Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get. But I think taking the shot on him is well worth it to me. And that's why I would put him in after Henry.
He's a guy I wish I got last year because he did have some insanely awesome weeks. And like I don't know why I didn't think that he was going to be good because he has very similar like speed and body of Jimmy Graham. I mean, Jimmy Graham's a little slower, I think, but I think that it was like all the numbers were there to make you think that Jared Cook was going to be elite, but like nobody went for it. So
I believe he had like the 4th most fantasy points per game last year. So
yeah, he was up there. So having him on the list right here, I think, is a no-brainer.
I agree. Fantasy pros, they put Njoku next.
I like Njoku, but there's a lot of fear there with all of the weapons that they have in Cleveland right now. They have so many weapons, and honestly, I'm not on the bandwagon right now with their team skill. I don't really like Nick Chubb. I don't really like Baker as much as everybody else does. I think that they're going to get a lot of points, and I think it's going to be a pretty explosive offense. But David Njoku is going to have to split a lot of the work with everybody else, and so he kind of like, I don't know. He went from anywhere from 4.3 to 18.5 points per game last year, like in each game, and that's a pretty big jump. I don't like that I have to like question whether or not he's going to like be viable or not every single week. So like I had O.J. Howard and David Njoku in pretty much every league, and I didn't know who in the heck to play, because one of them would do great, and then the next one would do great, and the next one would do great, and then I would just miss the boat every single time, even though I'm playing the right matchups. So that's just something I don't like. I think he's a good steal at like in the 8th round where he's being drafted. I think he's like the last of his tier to be drafted in every single draft, but and he's like the last of his tier before like a huge drop off for some people. But
or at least a huge drop off in skill wise, like just being an athlete. For me, yeah, like you kind of said, I think he's just too inconsistent for me. Like, you never know what you're going to get out of him. Last year, we saw the same thing we saw his rookie year, where you just never know. Even like the last 5 weeks, it was kind of just up and down, and that was with Baker kind of later on in the season with Freddie Kitchens. So I don't know if we can expect too much, and that's not adding Odell. So adding Odell, it's just one more guy to take away targets, and there's just way too many guys to get targeted in that offense to be consistent. So I don't expect him to be consistent at all.
So
that's why I'm not really trying to get him at all, to be honest. I'm kind of avoiding him, but
I do like that he's 80% or better in all of his workout metrics. I do like that he's been progressing like over the course of the past 2 years, because he has improved over those 2 years, and like his skill set is showing a little bit more as he's getting more comfortable with the offense. But it's just like, it's really hard to like put that kind of draft capital into a guy that you don't know how much work he's actually going to get within his offense.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we know he's a good tight end, but like, is he going to be a consistent tight end in terms of fantasy? I don't think. I don't think so.
Time will tell. I have a few shares of him, I'm not going to lie, but I'm scared. I'm a little scared.
Yeah, like at his value, it's not a bad spot. It's not a bad pick. But for me, I just know that he's not going to be consistent. Or at least I'm like 100% confident in my own opinion that he's not going to be consistent, especially based off of what we've seen. So that's why I'm kind of just avoiding him.
And I'm getting higher on a few of these other guys down below as well. So it's like, do I just wait and grab like a couple of those guys with like super low risk, high reward, or just go with David Njoku and like kind of know what I'm going to get with the inconsistency? It's a toss up, but you got to take your pick.
Yeah. Then we have Ebron.
Yes.
You have him above Njoku. I do as well.
Yeah, we're just one spot above for both of us.
And for both of us, I think we can agree on that. I think he's a little bit more consistent, especially in that offense with Luck. He didn't get as many yards as like a lot of the tight ends last year. 750. For how many targets he got and everything, like 750 is kind of lower. but he got a crap ton of touchdowns. So
yeah, he's number 4 in points per game.
Yeah.
So like he's got huge potential. He's super fast, huge contested catch rate. Competes with Jack Doyle, which is like kind of a downside for him. So Jack Doyle is a really skilled tight end as well. He's like the exact opposite in skill set, but Eric Ebron is just like, I think that he has a higher ceiling than Jack Doyle, and so that's why I like him as the number 7, because I don't know, I think he's just gonna put up some big points.
Yeah, Eric Ebron had 14 touchdowns last year, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Because like I said earlier,
I didn't type it up, but I saw it was a high touchdown number.
Well, I said earlier that Cook had the 4th most fantasy points per game, and that's because I thought I made a mistake on the touchdowns, because 14 is pretty ridiculous, And I know that he had a ridiculous amount last year, but 14 is crazy. Like, I wouldn't look for him to get 14 again. So, but like he still could be pretty good. He could still get 700 yards and like 10 touchdowns, and that would still be pretty solid.
Yeah,
and that's still better than I think you're going to get from Njoku.
Well, I think Eric Ebron might even progress more than that. I think even splitting targets with Jack Doyle, they pass so much in the Colts offense that he's going to get a ton of work.
Yeah, I think he has more upside and even a safer floor than Njoku. So that's pretty much why he's above Njoku for both of us.
Like, you can't really go wrong with any of the guys in this tier, honestly. But like, the only guy that I really worry about is Hunter Henry, and that's why I have him at the bottom of my tier. So,
see, for me, it's like more Njoku that I worry about.
And it's more about draft position than anything. Like, that's my biggest concern with him, is that his draft position is so high, and then everybody else is like just a little bit lower, but with the same upside as Hunter Henry. So
yeah, and after those guys is Vance McDonald, and that's exactly why I put Vance McDonald above Hunter Henry, because I am not grabbing Hunter Henry where he's going. Like, it's not a bad spot. I just don't believe in his talent, or like I don't believe in his like future enough, I guess.
Honestly, Vance belongs in the next tier up for me. He belongs. He's in the mix of it with all of those guys. I even have him probably above Hunter Henry in my head, but it's just hard for me to like just throw him in there,
Yeah, and like, the only in terms of my value and where I value these guys and where I'm projecting these guys next year, like that's kind of where McDonald I think has the potential to be. He could even potentially beat out Evan Engram, maybe even OJ Howard. He could be 4th.
He could be a top 4 guy. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Like, that's pretty much the ceiling for me, is top 4.
And
I don't think his floor is that low either. It's the thing I have about him is I have him down for more targets, obviously, because Jesse James is gone. He's going to be playing pretty much 24/7 at tight end.
And that's huge.
The Steelers have nobody below him, really, unless somebody pops out of nowhere and surprises us. But Brown had 168 targets last year. If you just give him like 30% of that,
some of them,
like Ben Roethlisberger, he attempted 675 attempts last year, which is the highest of his career. So obviously that's going to go down, you would think. So you take 100 attempps off.
That's their play style, though. That is their play style.
They're going to still throw a lot. I'm not going to be wrong, but maybe 600 attempts. I don't think he's going to get 675. Like you could just take 100 attempts off to be realistic, and then give 25 targets basically added to McDonald. Maybe even more.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I have for McDonald like written down is that he had a 57% snap share last year, and he had 5.6 to 21 points per week, pretty much. 13th best in points per game with a 57% snap share, and all those other guys up above all had like 90% snap shares, 85% snap shares, whatever, aside from maybe Eric Ebron. So it's like he wasn't on the field and he was still producing at a very, very high level. And now Jesse James is gone, and that's a huge difference. Plus Antonio Brown is gone, so he's going to be splitting those targets as well. Honestly, he should be producing at a very, very elite level, and it's going to be pretty exciting to see what he does.
Yeah, and he had 73 targets last year, right? I believe he should have over 100 next year. Like, his targets should easily be over 100. His receptions, I could definitely see him getting 75 receptions or above. And if that happens, I mean, he had 610 yards last year. He could easily get 800, 900 yards, and you throw in like 4 more touchdowns, which would be 8. So, and that's 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. You can get that.
That is such a steal at in the 7th, 8th, 9th round, depending on what draft you're doing. Like, depending on how many people are in your league and all that stuff. Like, he's literally being drafted as like the 10th tight end, 8th tight end.
Yeah.
And yet he has top 4 potential. So like, why not take a risk and grab him? Like, and then you can grab one of those other guys on your list.
Yeah, I think he's going behind Njoku and Eric Ebron and even Hunter. So like, that's why I'm kind of avoiding Henry, because while I like Henry going into the next year, I don't like him more than I like guys like McDonald. So if I can get a better player at that spot and then still get McDonald later on, that's a win for me, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I actually really hope that I get McDonald in one of my drafts at least this year. I'm taking OJ and Evan Engram, but if I don't get them at all, if I don't get those guys, I'm getting Vance McDonald. So in one of my drafts, I probably won't land those guys for whatever reason, and then I can go get my Vance McDonald hopefully. But
sadly, I actually don't have Vance McDonald in any league because I just realized how decent of a pick he is. Before I was like, why is Vance McDonald going this high? It's so stupid. But I didn't even realize about the Jesse James news. So I kind of messed myself up in that regard.
Yeah, and that's like why I'm not drafting anybody after Engram, because I love McDonald so much going into next year that like I don't want Hunter Henry, I don't want Ebron, I don't want Njoku, because I'd rather just wait, get better value for players, and then take the guy I really like the most and get McDonald. And that's my strategy going into it.
I'm gonna try to look for him as my backup tight end in Dynasty and see how that happens. Hopefully I can get that steal, but we will see, because he is on the older side, right? So it's gonna be. I don't want him to be my main guy. I want to have a young up and comer and Vance McDonald as well. I don't know. I like Vance McDonald, but he might not be in the league for more than six years. So
yeah, 29 years old. Dynasty might not be the best pick,
but you look at all these other guys and they're lasting a very, very long time. So
yeah,
we'll see.
And I mean, how many options are there realistically at tight end? There's not really too much for Dynasty purposes, I don't think, right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the elite players are getting well. I don't know, because
all
that middle tier is all young guns. So
yeah, but if you're drafting Dynasty with like 12 guys, it's like you have 3, 4, 5 guys that are kind of young and good.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. At that point, it could be hard. Then you're taking guys later on, they're older.
So you have him as number 6 on your list?
Yeah, I have him pretty high up.
And then Jared Cook inserted, obviously.
Yeah, and like I said,
him above Jared Cook or Jared Cook above him?
Jared Cook's would be below him and Henry.
Okay.
So, like I said, I wouldn't draft McDonald here. Like, I'm not saying target him here, grade him above Henry and all these guys. I'm just saying that's where I value him, and I would just wait and then draft McDonald.
And it's a lot based on ADP more than anything. So,
yeah.
If you find him at a good spot and you feel like you should pull the trigger, then do it. So, who is next? Austin Hooper?
Austin Hooper's next on the Fantasy Pros list.
For sure. So I have him at 11. I have him right after Vance McDonald anyway. You have him 12?
Yeah, I have him farther down there. For me, I know a lot of people are high on him. I just don't quite understand why. The Falcons' offense, we all know they're explosive and everything, but I mean, over the last couple of years, he hasn't really shown us much. Like he's been okay. 660 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like the yards ain't bad. If he can get 100 more, I'd feel comfortable with it. But for me, it's just the touchdowns. He's not getting the touchdowns. I don't know. He just doesn't seem consistent either. Like he's having games. I think he's having games where it's like decent, and then he's having games where he just doesn't do much at all, and it's really hit or miss. So I think that's my problem.
What I noticed actually is that his snap share got reduced like crazy at the end of the year, and so that was a lot of the issues with his point totals. So I don't know. I'm kind of concerned about that, because normally when a player has reduced snap shares, then that means they're trying to figure something else out, I guess, or they're changing the game plan to like game plan them out of it. So like he has like a low floor from week to week, but he has just as high of a ceiling as anybody. So it's like that's the only reason why he's so high on my list, is because he has such a high ceiling when he's there. He also has the highest catch rate of any tight end. So it's tough to I mean, obviously Matt Ryan puts the ball right where he wants it, so Austin Hooper can get it. But
yeah,
the other reason why he's there is because he has that 12th round ADP, which is a big jump down from the last tier of tight ends.
Yeah, where you can get him in the list is really good. And if you believe in Hooper, hey, that's not bad. But for me, it's just the Falcons' offense. It seems like they always focus like different players each week. Like there's so many options there that it's just never going to be consistent after Julio. Julio's like the only consistent receiver they have. Then it's like Calvin Ridley's going to have his day. Then Sanu's going to have his day. Then Hooper might jump in. And between those 3 guys, you're like taking turns almost. So that's why he's kind of consistent for me, and that's why I don't buy into him this year.
Well, and they're just like that other team I was talking about with the big play guys. They,
Chargers,
Mohamed Sanu can, Mohamed Sanu can go for a 100-yard touchdown, and then all of a sudden they're off the field, and Austin Hooper didn't get any catches that entire drive.
Yeah, so, and that's the exact same concern. Yeah, Hunter Henry, that's my concern with him too. But I still believe in Henry more than I obviously believe in Hooper.
Oh yeah, of course. That's why he's higher on the list.
Yeah, that's why you never would see Henry down that far, but.
He has more upside week to week rather than Austin Hooper. But I think Austin Hooper actually might be able to score more points in a given week. I don't know if you agree on that, but
I can see it.
Yeah.
because he can score like 25 points in a week, and you wouldn't be surprised. But also he can score 0 the next week, and it's the same
Still
thing.
not surprised.
So, yeah, exactly. So whereas I think Hunter Henry's gap is like right here. He's anywhere from here to here, and then Austin Hooper's like here to here. So
Yep.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but yeah, I think he's in a good spot on our list right there, 11 and 12. Also on Fantasy Pros list. His low ADP is what makes him such a value.
So then this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
I agree with Fantasy Pros here. They have him, Delanie Walker. Well, I guess I don't agree with them, but I agree that they have Delanie Walker on the list.
Yeah.
So Delanie Walker's after Hooper. I have Delanie Walker after Njoku. I think Walker has a chance to be consistent, like week in, week out tight end. He always kind of is that guy that like you're not excited to get. You're like, I just got Walker. I feel okay about that. Like you don't feel great, but it's not like, damn, I'm just gonna be terrible at tight end. You have a guy that's generally consistent. He generally has like a decent floor, but his ceiling is generally kind of limited. You're just kind of getting those safe points. Like if he gets 7 points a game, 8 points a game, like you're generally content with that because the rest of your team should be so good. And that's like the only reason you kind of get Delanie Walker is because you went elsewhere with your picks, and you just need somebody to give you the points where you're going to be lacking, that's Delanie Walker. He's getting up in age, so that does concern me a little bit, and he's coming off of the injury. But
the 2018
the season before that though, he still had 807 yards and 4 touchdowns. Obviously 4 touchdowns isn't good enough for me. I'd prefer a little bit more. But
he had the third most receptions in the league in 2017, which is the only reason why like I'm questioning my decision not to have him on my list. But I mean, it's been a full year. He's an aging tight end. He's injury prone, kind of. I don't know. He could have a great year, but like he's just not on my draft board because there's a lot of fear there.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna have a great year, but I don't think he's gonna have a bad. Like he should be like solid. That's like the word of Delanie Walker is just like solid and safe. You're gonna have 700 yards. Probably not even. I don't think you're gonna get 800 yards this year. If anything, I think more touchdowns would be more realistic. Like I could see 650 yards, maybe 700, and then like 5 touchdowns, 6 if he gets lucky. But a lot of that too is I don't think he's gonna get targeted 111 times like he did 2 years ago because they do have more weapons now. They have Corey, they got Adam Humphries, Sharp. They have some other guys there that like are okay and pretty decent. So Delanie Walker's not the only guy.
They have Deion Lewis. They have Deion Lewis too, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know. I'm not that high on Deion Lewis either. I think he's
nor am I, but he's a target. He's a target
on the list. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like back in the day, it was like Delanie Walker. That's all you have. So he's gonna get a crap ton of targets. He's gonna be consistent. Like now, it's you have a little bit more. You have some more options, so you don't have to just go crazy with Walker. So that's the only thing that concerns me is they have more weapons and also the injury and him getting older. Like there's definitely some concerns there, but you're getting him for almost a free value at this point. Like he's going pretty steep. Like he's going really late.
11th, 12th round. So
yeah, it's really late.
Depending on the league, obviously, if it's like a 10-man, whatever, he's probably not getting drafted because nobody's drafting 2 tight ends. But
well, at this point, this is where you can start drafting 2 tight ends. I think if you
at this point in the year,
it depends. It depends on who's like. There's no point in drafting 2 tight ends if these guys are all going to be on the waiver wire. You can pick them up whenever. But if but if you're in a deep league and these guys aren't going to be on the waiver wire, then that's when you might want to draft 2 tight ends here because I don't feel comfortable with just having Delanie Walker on my roster alone. Maybe getting Walker and Graham would be cool, but you're kind of just getting him because he has the potential of being consistent.
Yeah, and he's a really good. If you get one of the injury-prone tight ends up above, I think that's actually a good pick to like throw in there because he does have that consistency that if you have a guy that's out 2 to 3 weeks, that Delanie Walker can step in there and take care of it. Yeah. But if he gets injured himself, then obviously you have an issue.
And that's why I like him above Hooper. Hooper can definitely score more points, and he probably will have more. He'll have a game where he has more points than Walker ever had. Like Walker's not going to get 15 points at all. His ceiling is really limited for me. But it's just floor, I think, is higher than Hooper. Like it's like you kind of said, it's like this is Walker, and this is Hooper. So, and when I'm picking tight ends, I don't like going with the guys that are like this. I like getting the guys that are consistent. Obviously, I like points out of my tight ends, which is why I try to get the higher guys. But at this point, I just want somebody who can just give me my consistent points. Because if I'm drafting him, my team around him should be pretty good. So I don't need him to be the guy that blows up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's why I have Walker higher, just because of my own preference in tight ends. At the end of the year, Hooper probably still has more points than Walker overall. I think it's just Walker's going to have more consistent throughout the week.
Yeah, I just don't like his. I think honestly, I don't think I just like his age. Like I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, you really don't like old tight ends.
I think it's because he's old and because he just came off a huge injury. And the older you are, the harder it is for your body to recover. So if he didn't recover fully, well, I mean, I'm sure he did. It's been a full year, but I don't know. It's just a worrisome thing, and I don't like to have like fear, especially in a position that like I don't regard so highly that like I want to think about it every single week. I just want a guy that like plugs away, and I don't have to like think about like any fear of him getting injured or like whatever. So most of these guys like this far down the list, I'm not even thinking about like they're not starters on my team. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm typically not drafting any tight ends at this point because I've already drafted one. I don't really advocate for going this far for tight ends personally. You can do it, but my draft style is kind of like, hey, if Kelce's there and he slides really far, if it's like Kelce, Juju, and then like Dalvin Cook, I'm probably taking Kelce at that point. That's when I think taking Kelce is good. But even then, I would go O.J. Howard and Engram generally more often than not, and then Vance McDonald. So like I'm drafting one of those guys, I think, pretty much always. But if I get to this point in the draft, I'm looking for safe, reliable options week in, week out, and that's why I think Walker could be that. Not crazy good, but like, you know, if he's solid week in, week out.
Yeah, I don't have one league, I don't think, where I don't have one of the top 9 on my list tight ends. Like it's what it is.
Yeah, so we would definitely advise you to go higher up on, value him a little higher. But
if you grab Vance McDonald as your starting tight end, I'm not mad at that at all.
Yeah, not at all. I think that's one of the last reliable options, though.
Yeah. So let's continue on. What we got? Trey Burton. So Trey Burton, we both have at number 14 on our lists. Trey Burton, he's pretty fast. He's got one of the highest true catch rates in the league. And basically how that works is that
if they have a 60% catch rate, but they have a 90% true catch rate, that means that you're literally taking all the balls that are uncatchable and you're just kind of like subtracting them out of the mix. So basically that just means that his quarterback's inaccurate when he's throwing to him. And so that's one of the fears that you have with Trey Burton. Even though he's a very skilled player, he's not going to get as much work as he should because his quarterback can't hit him.
Yeah,
you may be asking, how can a quarterback not hit a 6'3", 236-pound guy? It beats me. It's Trubisky.
Yeah, my thing is Trey Burton used to be on the Eagles, so I know how good Burton can be. Like I liked Burton as a backup tight end.
He's a solid player.
Yeah, I didn't mind losing him though because I knew we couldn't pay him, and I didn't want to pay him. Like we can't afford that, and he wasn't good enough to really.
Well, yeah,
be paid
you
on
guys
our
got
team.
a better tight end than Goddard anyway.
Yes,
so
and then it all worked out because we got Goddard anyways. Like I'm not tripping like losing him, but I know how solid he can be and how good he is in the passing game. So like I'm not worried about Burton's skill. I'm more worried about like you said, the quarterback.
Trubisky, Trubisky and the offensive line,
the
all
offense.
That stuff.
Yeah, and I just don't know if they target tight ends that much in that offense either.
They don't. Yeah, they do a lot of. Yeah, they do a lot of like running back passes to what's his name, Tariq Cohen. They do a lot of like over the middle, like I don't know. They do some weird stuff in that offense. Mostly their offense just goes 3 and out, and that's it.
Yes.
If Trubisky can improve, which I don't think he can go down from last year really, like because last year he didn't really show bursts like or excitement in any way. I think that Trey Burton could improve to a point where he's a usable tight end, but it's a big risk like when you're drafting. Obviously he's a 10th round pick, so it doesn't really like affect you that much, but I don't know. You can't put him as a starter on your team or else you're just like risking the biscuit for no reason.
Yeah. He's kind of like an Opera Hooper type of guy for me. It's like he's going to be inconsistent. He's going to have his weeks where he does decent. He's going to have his weeks where he doesn't do that good. I think that
he could have consistency though. He could.
I think that his floor is a little higher than Hooper, but I think his ceiling is also a little lower than Hooper.
Agreed.
So
agreed, 100%.
So I feel more comfortable taking Burton than I would Hooper. I think. I don't know. It's pretty either way. I don't want it, but
I'd rather have Hooper. That's me personally, because I'd rather have that.
I get that. You rather have a tight end that can win you a game than. And I get that, but
there's nothing more exciting than when your tight end blows up for like 26 points and you end up beating your opponent because your tight end just outplayed the other team. That's lovely because you don't have to worry about that at all. That's just luck of the draw, and you just go happy.
There's nothing more exciting when that happens consistently when you have Travis Kelce. So,
but we can't all have Travis.
Yeah. So Trey Burton, he got 6 touchdowns last year, which is, I think if you're getting 6 touchdowns as a tight end like this late in the draft, like that's pretty good. If he gets 6 next year, like I'm okay with that if I'm drafting him. The biggest thing is 77 targets, 54 receptions, 569 yards. He's not getting enough yards and volume to kind of be as consistent as he needs to be.
Well, and I'm putting him at probably 8 touchdowns next year just because just because I think that the offense improves just a little bit. I
You
don't
think
think
they
that they're
should?
going to be. I don't think they're going to be insane or anything, but I think Trubisky's going to have a little bit of a step up. I don't think it's going to be good enough to make anything happen. No Super Bowl wins or anything like that. But I think that Trey Burton gets a little increase. Like I think he's one of the only players on the team that gets an increase from Trubisky's success this year, or increased success.
So
I
you
don't
have
know.
him farther down.
That's all just thoughts though. That's not. I mean, that's not backed up with any logic whatsoever. That's just how I feel about the situation.
So we have him down like 2 spots from where they have him, which isn't too much of a drop really. My biggest thing is like, is Jimmy Graham better or Burton? I don't really know. Those guys are really interchangeable to me. It's really hard to say for me. That like those are like, that's like a slash. Like it's Trey Burton slash Jimmy Graham really. It's not one or the other. And that's how I look at them right there. But
And that's a tough one for me too.
so in tier 4 for me, my tier 4 started earlier than everybody else's. But my last guy there is Greg Olsen. So Greg Olsen, I'm not high on him. I don't love Greg Olsen. I'm not going to take him in a draft and be like, I got Greg Olsen and feel excited about it. But again, he used to be really good. He used to get it done. I used to have him multiple years in a row. I used to have him, and he was solid for me. So I like him for like obviously the past, but like Walker, he's old, coming off of an injury. He might not be reliable because of that. He came back too soon. That foot just never healed up for like a year or two at this point. I don't know. You would think at this point it would be healed, so hopefully he's good to go. With Cam at quarterback, I don't have concerns with that because Cam's a beast. Their receiving options, we don't really know what we have in them. So again, Olsen's a really good option, to be honest, in their passing game. So he's safer than Walker in that regard. I think his upside is actually higher than Walker, but I think his floor is a little lower just because we don't know what we have. And I think his injury is actually more risky than Walker's. I am more concerned with Olsen getting re-injured than Walker getting re-injured.
Me as well. He's the AJ Green of tight ends. So.
Yeah, so I doubt that he plays a full season next year, but if he did, I think his season could be decent. Like he could have a solid season where he's getting, decent amount of points each game.
For a 6'6", 255 tank, he is the most frail human that I've ever seen.
Yeah, at this point in his career, he's got no feet. So
did you mention that he missed 16 of 32 games
recently? I didn't mention that
last
stat.
2 seasons?
I just meant like the last 2 seasons it's been the foot. He injured his foot.
Yeah,
I believe
he missed 16 total games out of 32 in his last 2 seasons. So, I don't know. That's my only issue with him. I don't have him on my list. I think that he's an elite runner. He's so fast when he gets the ball in his hands. But like I said, he's the AJ Green of tight ends. When he's on the field, he's going to be a beast for you. If he's not on the field, which is a lot, then you're just missing points. You have an empty roster spot that's just sitting there. If you have an IR, I'd suggest grabbing Greg Olsen as your backup tight end, and just it's a good late round flyer. If you have IR positions.
Yeah, I think that Greg Olsen, the reason he's above Hooper for me, again, is because I like consistency. And I think he's got a little bit of a wider gap than Walker. But I think it's just, I would rather grab a guy like Olsen, and if he plays the whole season, then I made the right decision, I think. If he doesn't, no big deal. It's so late. There's nobody left anyways. I'll just pick somebody up. So that's the way I kind of look at Olsen, is I'll just drop him if I need to, because if he gets injured, I don't want him. But if he plays all 16 games, which is a huge if, but if he does, I think he has a better year than Hooper. And I just really don't like Hooper, because you're going to get 2 points or you're going to get 20. So it's really it's hard for me to draft Hooper, and that's why I would take the risk and the gamble on Olsen, which is why I have him higher.
I think the main reason why I don't have him on my list is because I would rather lotto ticket, with my backup player. I want a lotto ticket a little bit. I want to grab a guy that I think has a chance to have a really high ceiling, like Mark Andrews or Jordan Reed if he doesn't get injured, or 2 of those rookies, or stuff like that, because we haven't seen what they can do yet, when either healthy or when whatever. Whereas Greg Olsen, we've seen his ceiling, we've seen his floor, we know exactly what he's capable of. And I don't know, I go kind of risky with my backup players, whereas I feel like you go safer with your backups because you want to make sure you have a reliable one.
Yeah, pretty much. And and he might not even be a backup for some people. I think if you said you want a guy that's more risky and more upside, I think if you grab Mark Andrews and Greg Olsen, that could be good. You could have a reliable guy if he's healthy, and then you have a guy that could be reliable and has upside. So if you're gonna draft a tight end after McDonald, you might look at 2 tight ends, and if you do get 2 tight ends, you're probably gonna want to pair a guy that could be safe and a guy that has risk. That could be a good option.
It's tough for me to grab Greg Olsen anymore. like I said, I don't like old tight ends. So.
Oh, I get it. I mean, I'm not trying to grab him, and I probably won't grab him because I've already taken a tight end at this point. But grabbing 2 tight ends after McDonald can be good. But if you're gonna just grab one, make sure like there's some people on the waiver wire you can pick up if you're grabbing Olsen, because he could get injured and then you could be screwed. So you want to make sure you either have a lot of waiver wire options or you grab 2. So moving on, we have Jack Doyle after Trey Burton. Jack Doyle, I don't hate, I don't love. If I'm drafting a tight end at this point in the draft, I wouldn't mind giving Jack Doyle. You know, he was the guy that was the primary guy before Ebron came. I think Ebron's just a better tight end, so he's going to be secondary to Ebron. So it's really hard for me to take Doyle. But assuming they like split snaps, Doyle could be okay.
I like Jack Doyle because like his points per game in 2018 were top 5, which is kind of wild considering Eric Ebron also was number 4 in points per game. But he's just got to prove that he can stay on the field. And he was elite in 2017. He did really well in 2018 in the games that he played. He's lightweight slow, which is hard to get past. But with Andrew Luck throwing you the ball, you're going to be getting points. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be some schmuck off the street, but you're going to get some points. Yeah. So Jack Doyle is going to be a viable candidate to get some points. With Eric Ebron in the game, he's going to get a lot less targets than he would have otherwise.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that gives me comfort is the 10.1 fantasy points per game when he was on the field. Wasn't
that's
much,
huge,
but
right?
That's pretty good. Like that's over 10's good, you know.
Yeah, for a tight end, that's reliable, that's safe, that's nice.
Yeah, and if you can do that,
and you're getting him in the 13th round versus Eric Ebron, who you're getting in the 7th. Even though I think Eric Ebron's obviously a better talent, but it's a huge difference.
I don't think it's a bad way to start off tier 4 for fantasy pros. It's not a bad option if you're going this late.
Yeah, and I've got him in my mega tier of tier 4. So
he could be a guy that's a little bit more reliable, a little bit more safe, that doesn't kill it because Ebron's there. So I don't think the upside's too high for Doyle, but I don't think the floor is that low because again you're in Luck's offense. So even if it's a tight end like number 2, you could still get 50 yards and a touchdown or 30 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, their offense is just so like, I don't know. They do so much good work in the passing game that it's hard to just avoid any of the targets. You have to like pay attention very clearly.
Yeah, it's kind of like Dallas Goedert at this point, but Dallas Goedert, he's way better like skill-wise than Jack Doyle. So
yeah, but their offense is, the Eagles' offense is hard to pick a reliable target because like they spread the ball around like a decent amount.
Well, it switches week after week after, like
they're like the Redskins.
Yeah, it's a little harder, and that's why Goedert's a little lower for sure. But
like the Redskins with a better offense.
They got Mark Andrews after that.
Okay.
I have Mark Andrews a little lower. I believe you might have him a little lower as well.
We have Mark Andrews at 15 and 16.
Yeah, so we have him a little lower. Not by much, though.
Yeah.
Mark Andrews, I like his upside. I think he's going to be good. There's a lot of hype going on about him right now. The one thing is that I believe it was Nick Boyle hit a lot more snaps than him last year. I want to say that I read somewhere that Nick Boyle is more of a blocking tight end. I'm not sure how accurate that is, though. Yeah, he's more of a blocking tight end, so he's not going to take that many targets away from Mark Andrews. It's more about just getting Mark Andrews on the field, which is more the problem.
Mark Andrews had a 34% snap share last year, which is the worst out of any of the tight ends that we've talked about so far, and the worst out of any of the ones that we're yet to talk about, maybe even the rookies. So he's pretty, I mean, his snap share was really bad. So if he even gets a 50% snap share, he should be at a point like where Vance McDonald was maybe last year. He did a really good job with the target share that he had, but Nick Boyle's like the number 1 tight end that they have on their depth chart. He has way more playing time, all that stuff. He's still getting a ton of targets, even though he is a blocking tight end. So that's the only issue with Mark Andrews. But they're saying that in camp that Mark Andrews is absolutely killing it. Like, he's just getting all the pass receptions possible.
Yeah, he's looking good in camp and everything. There's been nothing but good words for Mark Andrews, so he should get more playing time next year. So given what he had last year, he still did good. I mean, he had 50 receptions, or 50 targets, and then 34 receptions, which isn't that much. He still had 552 yards. That's a pretty good amount of yards right there, based off of the receptions he had. So just based off the light work he had, that's not a bad number. If he got a little bit more work, you can easily see that number go up to 700.
Yeah, plus he's still young, so he's got plenty of time to progress and all that stuff. I think that if you get him in a dynasty league or something, that'd be really like optimal. But if you got him in a redraft and just like hold on to him as like safekeeping, I think that's a decent move as well.
Yeah,
he's got the skill set to be really good. So
he might be another year away from being like totally breakout, good. But if he got more playing time next year, they use him a little bit more. He could easily get 700 yards and maybe like 5 touchdowns because he had 3 last year. So if you slightly improve his numbers, if he has more playing time, that's not a bad year out of a tight end you get this late in the draft.
And their offense should improve this year. Plus, he improved he didn't get a higher snap share at the end of the year, but he did get better statistics.
So he's not a bad tight end. He's a guy that has a lot more ceiling, and his floor I don't think is too bad. I believe.
Yeah, I didn't dig in too deep on him, but all I know is when I looked at the depth chart, I saw Nick Boyle above him, and that kind of scared me because obviously Mark Andrews is the guy that we're looking at. So
yeah, it's more of just a question of is he going to get the work more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
he'll make do with the work when he gets it, though.
Yeah, he's definitely solid, like player wise. He's got like a higher ceiling, I think, than a lot of the guys going around him at this area. So they have Greg Olsen after Mark Andrews.
And then what?
So then after Olsen, then they have Jordan Reed.
Okay.
I have Jordan Reed after my Jack Doyle. You have him dead last on your list after Rudolph. I don't like Reed that much at all. I had him last year. It just didn't seem like he was getting that much work, to be honest. Like as a talent, he's good. Injury wise, he gets injured a lot. You know, he's a piece of paper. And then there's also uncertainty at quarterback, I guess. Like who's going to start?
He's one of the smallest tight ends that we've talked about. Also.
Oh yeah.
He's 6'2", 236.
Yeah, he's a good player. It's just, is he going to stay healthy, and is he going to get targeted? He didn't get targeted last year enough for me, and I didn't see enough good things out of him last year. It's a new year, but I don't think I see him improving that much, really.
He honestly doesn't have heart, and that's my biggest concern with him. Like, when I watch him play, he just looks like he doesn't give a shit, and so, like, that's why guys like Vernon Davis go out and get more points, more yards than him, because he just doesn't have heart when he's on the field. So he's not a guy that I want on my team as well. He's 65 out of 96 games in career, but like the past couple of years is when he's had the most of his games missing. He's just not a guy like I want on my team or on my fantasy team. So it's like hard to draft him.
It's hard to be excited to play for a Redskins team if you're a Redskins player. So lack of heart, pretty common.
Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Vernon Davis can do it. Anybody can do it. Let's be real.
No, I'm just playing. But anyway, Jordan Reed.
65-year-old Vernon Davis.
I think the ceiling is just really capped for Jordan Reed. I don't think he's not going to be top 10. He's not going to get that.
And it sucks though because he has the skill set to be a top 10.
Yeah, he has the skill set to be there.
We've all seen it for years.
Yeah,
If
definitely has the skill set to be there.
If he would run routes hard, he would play hard, and he would just because he catches pretty much everything that comes to him. From what I've noticed. He's very reliable, but he just doesn't try. And when he gets injured, he just sits out and says it's okay. He has a concussion history too, and that's worrisome. I think if he has another concussion, he's probably gonna be out of the league. Yeah. So there's no point drafting him.
If you're making a tight end list of pure raw ability, he's definitely gonna be up on a list a little higher than this. But it's just at this point, he's not gonna be a top 10 in tight end. He's not gonna be high end guy. I think his just ceiling is totally capped, and I think his floor is just as bad as Hooper's. So. The fact that I think his ceiling is basically as high as Olsen's, and I think his floor is Hooper. So it's at that point, he's kind of just a do not draft. For whatever reason, he gets back into football and starts playing good. I don't know. Then maybe you can pick him up. But over the last couple of years, I don't see it happening. After that, they have Kyle Rudolph. Again, another player that I had last year. I drafted Reed and Kyle Rudolph last year on the same team, thinking, hey, I have some sort of safe net here that one of them should be good. No, they both sucked.
Yep.
Kyle Rudolph, his stats are completely skewed right now because he had one blow-up game. If that blow-up game didn't happen, his stats would be complete dog shit, even more than they are now.
Yeah, agreed.
He's terrible, man. 634 yards, 4 TDs. I forgot how big that blow-up game was, but it was pretty substantial, and definitely knocked those stats up a lot.
Kyle Rudolph's true catch rate ain't bad.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Rudolph is a decent player. I don't hate Kyle Rudolph as the player.
Yeah.
I hate Kyle Rudolph in the position he's in where he doesn't get targeted for whatever reason that much.
It's his offense and quarterback.
They target his receivers. They target the running backs. They run the ball.
Yeah.
They don't target the tight end for whatever reason. They also just drafted that rookie, Irv Smith. So Irv Smith could be the guy that looks to start taking over his spot. Maybe they have him as the receiving tight end now, and maybe Kyle Rudolph is just a pure blocker. I don't know how they plan to use the tight ends.
As long as Kirk Cousins is in that offense, I ain't drafting no tight ends from that team, bro. Kyle Rudolph's true catch rate is not bad. He has a 67% catch rate, and he's got a 90% true catch rate because Kirk Cousins is so damn inaccurate that Kyle Rudolph they actually had to. That was the gap
That was the gap between, how good his quarterback is and how good he is, and this bullshit because Kyle Rudolph isn't bad, but he's not given a fair shake.
Yeah,
that's my take. That's my hot take.
I agree, man. It's just like he's a good player, just that offense fucking sucks for him. So yeah, he's a do not draft, even worse than Jordan Reed for me.
I mean, he doesn't even have an ADP on like any of the websites. he's not getting drafted. All right, let's continue.
Jimmy Graham is next. I don't see how they have Jimmy Graham below Reed and Rudolph at this point. I'm not a huge fan of Graham, don't get me wrong. Jimmy Graham is a guy that used to be a complete stud. Obviously, he's older now. He's not that stud anymore, but he can still get it done. Like, he's got Aaron Rodgers. The problem is Rodgers didn't do that many touchdowns last year. So I think if you increase his touchdown ratio, like if he has a bounce back year in touchdowns, you can see a couple of those touchdowns go to Jimmy Graham, and that's where Jimmy Graham's volume will increase, or his value will increase. And that's why I think Jimmy Graham's going to be a little better this year, just because of Aaron Rodgers last year. He only had 2 touchdowns. Jimmy Graham, 2 touchdowns. There's no way he gets 2 or less again. There's only room for improvement there.
So I would have him where you have him. I would have him at 13 rather than 16. But Jimmy Graham dropped 40 passes last year. 40. And if he doesn't drop those passes, if he doesn't drop like even half of those passes, his numbers shoot through the roof. He could have been a top 5 tight end easy, but the risk that you face lies within those numbers. So if you think that he's going to have the same exact target share, the same exact whatever, and he catches like 20 more passes than he did last year because he just catches a higher percentage, then by all means go grab Jimmy Graham. The thing is, I don't think anything's going to change from last year. I think he's going to be very, very similar. They might even reduce his targets, so we'll see how all that goes. But this is all speculation. So
91 targets, 55 receptions, like you say. He didn't catch that many of them. 636 yards it's not bad for tight end, to be honest. It's just mainly the problem is the tight ends or the touchdowns. If he had more touchdowns, which again, if he caught more balls, maybe he could have had more touchdowns, and the yards would have been up as well. Yards would have been up at a pretty decent number actually if he caught more passes. But again, like, the same problem that he has is the exact same problem that MVS had. MVS had the exact same problem. He had a high target rate, and then he didn't catch that many. So
that's exactly what I was thinking.
So I think the whole offense as a whole was just dysfunctional last year. Mm-hmm. And I think going into this new year with all the training they're doing in the offseason, I just think that the whole offense should improve as a whole and just be more efficient. Maybe they don't get the same targets as last year because they had a lot as a team, but I think...
Well, no, they're still going to throw the ball.
They're still going to throw the ball a lot. It's Aaron Rodgers, so they should still be targeted a lot. The efficiency can only really go up, to be honest, at this point. So if they're more efficient... They play against
heavy run defenses, too. They play against tons of heavy run defenses.
Yeah, so if they're more efficient this year, I don't think Jimmy Graham can get 2 touchdowns again. He should have at least 4. But I could definitely see 6. If maybe 700 yards, 6 TDs, it's not too bad. Like, that can happen.
I could see more touchdowns for sure.
Yeah, I just think the whole offense last year was just inefficient.
Yeah, and he's in our top 20 list. I think that's like props to him, like in what he's done in his career. I think that he could be easily top 20, top 15, but it's just if he caught all the passes that he could catch, if he got some more touchdowns, those statistics right there, then he's a top 5 tight end, no doubt. It's a matter of if he does it, and I don't think he will. So that's why he's my 16.
I still don't think he's going to be top 5 tight end. I guess he could sneak his way into 10. He has the potential to sneak his way into 10, I think.
Well, just statistically, like the gap between where he was in fantasy points per game and fantasy points overall and top 5 is not that big of a jump.
Not too much. I mean, he had
tight end sucked last year.
8.2 fantasy points a game, like 2 points off 10, which isn't bad. And a lot of the tight ends got 10 or less. So, yeah, I mean, off of last year, he could have been top 10 if he caught a lot more passes.
Just a couple more touchdowns, like 20 more catches, something like that, and like it's not like he wasn't getting targeted. He was getting targeted. He just didn't like make anything of it.
Yeah, and again, I just think that's the Green Bay Packers offense last year. Look for them to bounce back for sure. And at this point in the draft, I mean, you're getting him for free. He's on a waiver wire in some leagues too, so it's like,
oh yeah, he's a freebie, which is so nice.
Yeah, so it's like there's no risk involved here. It's either he bounces back and he does good, or you just got him for free and you drop him anyways. So
yeah, and there's gonna be tons of free agents post week 1 anyway, so don't even worry about it.
And that's why I have him above Burton, just because his value, he's going a little lower than Burton, I believe. But also I think he has a higher ceiling than Burton, and I think he can be more consistent than Burton. Like, I think Burton can get more points in a single game than Graham. Maybe it'll be close, but I think consistency-wise, Graham could be more consistent, and he also could have more stats overall on the season because of the offense he's in, and just because, I mean, he was a really good tight end back in the day. He's lost a step at this point in his career, I think, but again, when you have Aaron Rodgers and you're super tall, he can just go up and get the touchdown. So that's what I kind of expect out of him.
And part of the reason why I have Trey Burton and Mark Andrews above Jimmy Graham is because those are guys that you have to keep on your bench in order to see if they do something, because they are getting drafted. Whereas Jimmy Graham, he's not getting drafted. So if he does something in the first 3 weeks, odds are you can grab him week 4 and you're not going to have any issues.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
That's part of the reason why I have him just a little bit lower, right? Because I think that if you want to see Mark Andrews succeed and you want to have him succeed on your team, you have to draft him and you have to have him on your bench. Maybe not. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I think it depends on the league for sure. But that's part of the reason I have it ranked in that way.
Yeah, and the way I ranked it wasn't about that. It was more about who I think is going to be better over the season, who I'd rather have. So again, I'm not saying draft these guys in order at all. I'm saying get these guys at the value that they should be going at.
And I think we do a pretty good job explaining what we mean when we rank these guys, So
yeah, so I'm not saying go out and target Jimmy Graham. You can get him for free, don't just grab him above Burton if he's there. Get him later on, Same with Vance McDonald, same thing. Just don't grab him that high. Grab him a little later.
I don't mind grabbing Vance McDonald high though. I do like that guy.
So. I'm not. Yeah, if you want to go out,
I'd reach on him.
Reach on him a little bit. I have no problem doing that. Reach on him a little bit. Don't reach on him above Hunter Henry.
Poquito.
Yeah, don't get him above Hunter Henry. Maybe even Eric Ebron. You might not want to get him above, but definitely grab him above Njoku. You might want. I don't know. You might want to grab him above Ebron because he could be. Some people could value him above Ebron. He might be gone. They could take him above Ebron. Yeah, it would suck. So if you wanted to reach on him, a little bit, go for it. But I wouldn't take him above Hunter Henry. If Hunter Henry's still there, you should be good. Next up, we got Chris Herndon.
18 on my list, 20 on your list, 20 on Fantasy Pros. Is that correct?
Something like that.
Something like that.
So Chris Herndon rounds out the top 20 for Fantasy Pros. Also rounds out my top 20. He's 18 for you. The thing with Chris Herndon is that's where I kind of went with your strategy or more of your rankings is where if he's free, he's suspended for the first 4 games. So I'm not drafting a player that's suspended for the first 4 games.
Oh, he is. I forgot.
Yeah, so simply because, I can't start him for 4 games.
My mistake. I wouldn't have him that high either, because my mistake.
So 20 for you.
He's a do not draft. Obviously, you're not going to draft him. Nobody is. Maybe they are. But
you can't really stash him though. Success. There's better players to stash than him. So he's going to be on the free agent. If you want to pick him up week 3, go for it.
Darnold was hella inaccurate to him last year, so there's no point in grabbing him.
Yeah, I mean, he had 502 yards, 4 touchdowns, 8.1 fantasy points a game. Wasn't too bad. His targets, he only had 56. So he didn't have that many targets. I think he was rookie last year, right? So if he improves his game and he's just a better tight end overall, and that offense is functioning a little better like they should, also year 2 with the quarterback, there's a lot of just moving parts in the Jets organization right now. It's just these guys maturing as players and maturing the offense, getting that system in place. If everything improves, that's when he could be good. I'm not saying that's this year. Chris Herndon could be better next year. He could be really good next year, actually. It's just this year.
And there's a solid chance that he never becomes successful just because there's a lot of guys like him that don't.
Yeah, no, it's not a for sure thing that he's going to be good in 2 years when the offense has had their time together and everything in gel. I'm just saying that last year there was they're all rookies and shit. So definitely.
Yeah, no, I get you. A lot of rookie tight ends don't do anything.
Yeah, and going into this year, you can look for him to have a little bit more targets. Obviously, if he suspended the first 4 games, he might not get more targets than he had last season. But he only played 14 games last season. He could. But in those games, he should have more targets. I think he might be a little better. I don't love him, but just keep your eye on him when he comes back.
My biggest issue with him is that he had a 92% true catch rate, but he only had a 69% catch rate. You know what I'm saying? So that means that Darnold was so inaccurate to him that it just made it impossible for him to have a decent catch rate on his targets. And if you got a guy throwing that bad of passes to Chris Herndon, then he's never going to be successful unless you target him 150 times this season. So it's just tough to do that, and I'm not gonna put my eggs in that basket until Darnold shows that he can improve. And yes, he's been under fire because his offensive line was kind of cheeks, but still.
I think there's been good word out of camp though. I think the coaches are impressed and they like what they have with him and everything. I think that Darnold should improve. That tight end should improve.
Yeah, he's got a good head on his shoulders. I like Darnold as a player. I just, it's something that I'm scared of because I like Trubisky as a player, and that's the same fear that comes out of him.
Yeah, you're not drafting Herndon because he's suspended. If you're that needy for a tight end, like you're just hurting, you could pick him up week 3 before that, like before he's done with the suspension, just to stash him. But if you're not even, if you're not even that needy for tight end, you could just keep an eye on him on the waiver wire because he should still be there,
But there's way more guys than the guys that we're talking about too. There's no way that that's going to be like what you have to resort to. So if you do, then you're probably not very good at drafting anyway, and like you should have watched this video beforehand. Sorry, I don't mean to roast you viewers, but
you should have taken our advice and drafted a top tight end.
Drafted anybody else.
Like if you drafted McDonald above, you'll be good. I mean, obviously some of those guys are gonna miss. Like Njoku, I think is gonna miss. He's a high probability of missing, but
but
a better chance.
I think we should continue to my favorite 2 players.
Yeah, so that's my list. That's Fantasy Pros list. You still have a couple guys left.
You have Fant 15, don't you?
Actually, yeah, I do have him on my list. Actually, yeah.
Technically,
about that.
Technically,
he's after Burton. So.
Yep. So Noah Fant is the guy. I have him at 13. Kyle has him at 15. Fantasy Pros doesn't have him on their list, which I think is ignorant. They have him on their list, but obviously deeper down. So he's got the skill set, like as far as like workout metrics goes. He's in the 100th percentile of pretty much every stat. He only had 4 targets in the preseason game, or 3 or whatever, and one of them was for 7 yards, and the other ones he just dropped or couldn't catch or whatever. So he didn't really do much to like impress or anything, but it gave me hope that he's going to have a decent amount of targets this year, even though it was just a preseason game. It was just the first one. It doesn't matter. But I've got faith. I've got some faith in Noah Fant because he does have the size. He does have the speed. He does have the agility. He's got the burst. He's got the strength. He's the whole package. He really is at tight end. He's got like Evan Engram like numbers. He just needs to go out and do it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. He has kind of ridiculous like measurables when he like got tested, all the agility and all that speed. He was all up in that top percentile and everything. He was good in college. Good pass catcher in college. That was his main thing, is being a pass catcher, not a blocker.
Well, and he's got on the field speed too. It's not just like he's at the combine. He ran a 40. His 40 was good. Sweet, that's it. No, he on the field he runs as fast as he runs his 40. So it's like that's something that you want to be excited about when you watch in-game speed versus like combine speed.
The kid's got talent for sure. It's just I think he got his feet wet in the Hall of Fame game. Wasn't his best, but he got his feet wet. Kind of gets the nerves like settled down hopefully, and we'll have to keep an eye on them and see how they use him week 2 and 3. That's when like the primary offense should be out there. So we'll see if he's out there and how he does, and that should be a huge tell right there. But I know that Joe Flacco has a history of throwing to tight ends, so that's another good thing about him that I like. And I just don't think there's anybody to really challenge him. Like you got Fant, and I don't think they have that many other tight ends there, really. So with the combination of Joe Flacco targeting tight ends and Noah Fant being a beast in terms of like skill set.
Rookie quarterbacks too, though. Rookie quarterbacks love throwing to like tight ends because they're like a safety. It's like a safety blanket. Like they feel safe when they throw to a tight end because they know that their tight end's gonna like either catch the ball or they're gonna knock it away so a defender can't get it.
Safety thing. So and Joe Flacco's always been like that.
Well, if Drew Lock plays,
you're saying if like Flacco gets benched or hurt?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I think will happen before the end of the season. I think Lock will play, but just in case, even if Flacco does play, Flacco likes his tight ends. So no matter what the scenario is, even their owner likes tight ends. So it's like, I'm not worried about it. Like I think that he's going to get his playing time because he's fast and has skill and whatever. Plus he can block. He's not necessarily like the best blocker in the world, but he can block. So
yeah, at this point, I think he has the most upside of the tight ends, like the rookie tight ends this year. I think this could be the year where he goes and does a decent job, like Evan Engram, his rookie year. Rookie tight ends don't typically do the best, so I'm not saying he should be up there, but he has the most potential or the highest ceiling right now of the rookie tight ends. The other guy, T.J. Hockenson, that you like, I like him overall. He's supposed to be really good. It's just that Jesse James is there, so you already have competition.
So the one reason why I do like Hockenson, and it's not because he's like an elite. He's elite in pretty much every way, but he's an elite blocker. And so because he's an elite blocker, he's going to have a really high percentage of like snap share. because they can use him on a run play, they can use him on a pass play, and they're not giving away what they're running. He's not going to like ruin their run play because he's in. He's not going to, I mean, obviously he's going to make it better because he is a really good blocker, but he's not going to give away the play. And because that's the case, he's going to probably get like a 90% snap share, which is going to give him the opportunity to be a good player, to be an elite tight end. And that's just something that I really like at Hockenson that I don't see as much in Fant. Fant is a really, really, really good pass catcher, and he's a lot better than Hockenson, probably in my opinion. But Hockenson can hold his own in the run block as well, and so he's gonna get his share, and that's what I like.
Yeah, I see that for sure, and because he's such an overall good tight end, if he talent-wise he should be better than Jesse James, but if he can get a hang of the NFL like speed and kind of acclimate to the NFL fast, he could potentially beat out Jesse James as the starter, like overall, and just be on the field more than Jesse James, and he can have a lot more opportunity than Jesse James. I just think that Jesse James is a pretty solid tight end by himself. I'm not saying he's elite or good. I think he's just a solid tight end. Like,
it is tough. It's tough to make that assumption already before like training camp is done and like all the preseason games have happened and we don't know who's going with first team and all that stuff. But if Jesse James, let's say Jesse James even gets like 40% of the snap share and Hockenson gets 60%, and obviously they're going to be on the field at the same time sometimes and all that stuff because they run 2 tight end sets a lot. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that it's 40-60. I still think that Hockenson gets like 7 to 9 points per game, and I'm comfortable with that at tight end.
Yeah, it's just going to be another guy you really got to like watch how the offense goes in week 2 and 3, I think.
We'll see. It's one of those we'll see moments, and I think that it's worth the late pick because he's getting drafted in about the 12th round, around with those other guys like the Austin Hoopers, Delanie Walkers, and I'd much rather take the risk with my backup tight end. Generally, I'm drafting them as backups or I'm drafting them as prayer starters, but if I'm getting them as a prayer starter, I'm going to grab somebody else like Hooper, Burton, those guys as well. I just really like where they're falling in the drafts with their skill set.
Well, with Noah Fant and T.J Hockenson, the thing with them is because they're so unknown at this point. I think that
I'm afraid
if you want to put them on your bench and go with the guy that like Greg Olsen or like one of those guys that like has been there and that like if they're starting should get some points, that might be a good thing. Is just getting those 2 tight ends or just picking them up later on.
Yeah, definitely could. If you get Jimmy Graham and T.J Hockenson, that could be like quite the duo.
Yeah, it could. And Hockenson.
Or Fant.
Like I think Matt Stafford passes the tight ends if they're open. Like he's not going to just say, "Hey, I hate tight ends." I think Stafford's kind of just like a well-rounded quarterback where like he's going to get the guy that's open. And I think with Ebron, he was open a lot. I think he targeted Ebron a decent amount when Ebron was there. It's just that Ebron dropped balls and didn't do shit. So I think that was more on Ebron just not being that good of a tight end at the time, rather than Stafford not throwing the tight ends.
And I don't even mind going T.J. Hockenson and Noah Fant in a draft. I think that's risky as balls, but like, if you did it, I wouldn't be against it.
And like you said before, they do use tight ends like and sets of 2s a lot too, because like we've seen it with Ebron. It was Ebron and I believe it was Pettigrew, and they were both on the field a good amount of time, and you saw multiple times they use both of them pretty evenly. So that could be something they do and look to do again.
They do a lot of out routes. They do a lot of out routes and slow developing plays where Hockenson will probably succeed a lot.
Yeah, it's just that the rookie tight ends typically just don't do that good, like stat-wise for fantasy. I don't know if it's because they don't get the playing time or what it is. They just generally don't perform as well for fantasy owners year 1. And that's like the main concern I have. Also, obviously having another guy there kind of concerns me as well. But if Hockenson can get more playing time and just kind of beat Jesse James out slightly, because they're both going to get their catches and everything, but if he can kind of take that lead slightly, he could be okay.
All right,
and I think that pretty much rounds out our top 20 list for tight ends. If you guys have any questions about tight ends or want to like anything, any suggestions, maybe you can even comment on a video and who's your biggest sleeper, anything you want to add, just let us know. We have Twitters.
If you have an issue with any of our rankings, comment that shit. I want to hear about it. I want to know what you think about these rankings. All right, I want you to like the video and subscribe regardless of what you think, because frankly we need it. Go for it.
Well, yeah, and that's how you like adjust your rankings and learn, and kind of like it's good to see everybody's different opinion and aspects on a player, because that's kind of how like you develop your list really going into the year. Like I might be high on a player, and then I watch a video where two guys are super down on them, and I have to reevaluate, like, do I still believe in the same thing, or I think maybe these guys are right, and maybe they can be right, and it just like makes me kind of like adjust a little bit. It's just good to like have a lot of people's input. So that's why I watch the fantasy footballers sometimes. That's why you kind of watch different guys and get their opinions to kind of like make your own opinion better, or just to see if you're right. Like, hey, I'm higher on this player than like a lot of people. Should I be? Is that right? And you kind of watch, and maybe if one of those guys is on the same boat as you, then you're like, okay, I don't feel too bad about it anymore, you know?
I mean, I adjusted my rankings like 4 or 5 times leading up to this video because like there's so many stats that are out there. There's so many things that like you're not looking into when you're making a video, when you're like assessing players in your head over and over again. So, I mean, just get different opinions. I would love your opinions. Throw in the comments. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and stay tuned for the next video. We should be doing quarterbacks next. So that's going to be a big one for you guys.
It's going to be a good one, man.
Thanks for watching.
I enjoyed this one a lot. But like and subscribe, and we will check you guys next time.
Like and subscribe.